Mitochondria are often described as the powerhouses of the cell, but they are much more than passive batteries. They behave almost like tiny organisms living inside each of our cells, with their own DNA and their own copying machinery. This presentation is meant to be a simple ABC for everyone who wants to understand, in plain language, how mitochondria replicate, how they keep quality under control, and what can go wrong when they are damaged, for example, after certain medications, and in people with FQAD. Inside each cell, we have two types of genetic material. The first is the big set of chromosomes in the nucleus, which most people know as our DNA. The second is a small circular molecule of DNA inside mitochondria, called mitochondrial DNA or mtDNA. Each mitochondrion contains several copies of this mtDNA, and each cell contains many mitochondria, so there are thousands of copies of mtDNA in a typical human cell. This mtDNA is replicated by a specialized enzyme called DNA polymerase G, together with other dedicated proteins that organize and stabilize the mitochondrial genome and its replication machinery. Unlike nuclear DNA, which is copied once per cell division, mitochondrial DNA can be copied more flexibly. Mitochondria can replicate their DNA and divide more or less continuously, depending on the needs of the cell. When the cell needs more energy, is under stress, or is differentiating into a more active cell type, it can increase mitochondrial biogenesis. In simple terms, it makes more mitochondria and more mtDNA. This process is tightly coordinated between the nucleus and mitochondria. Nuclear genes encode most mitochondrial proteins and control factors such as TFAM and the replication enzymes that bind and organize mtDNA. When a cell divides into two daughter cells, mitochondria are not split with surgical precision. Instead, the many mitochondria present in the mother cell are distributed statistically between the two daughters. Each new cell receives a mixture of mitochondria, some working better, some working worse. And after division, they continue to replicate and divide inside the daughter cells to reach the appropriate number for that cell's energy demand. The transcriptional coactivator PGC1A is one of the key controllers of this process, acting as a master regulator of the mitochondrial life cycle and linking external signals, such as exercise, cold, fasting, inflammation, to changes in mitochondrial number and function. The cell also has to take care of quality, not just quantity. Mitochondria constantly fuse together and split apart, which allows their contents to mix and defective components to be diluted. In addition, there is a specialized process called mitophagy, a kind of selective recycling system that recognizes badly damaged mitochondria, marks them, and sends them to the cellular waste machinery for destruction. Modern reviews describe mitochondrial quality control as a network that combines biogenesis, dynamics, fusion and fission, proteostasis and mitophagy to prevent the accumulation of defective mitochondria over time. Inside a single cell, there is rarely just one pure version of mtDNA. Instead, there is a mixture of molecules, some closer to normal, others with mutations or chemical damage. This situation is called heteroplasmy. When mitochondria replicate, they copy whatever template is present, including any errors or lesions in the DNA. When the cell divides, it passes on this mixture to its daughter cells. Over many cycles of replication and division, certain versions of mtDNA can become more common in a particular lineage of cells. If damaged mtDNA is not efficiently removed or outcompeted by healthier versions, it can gradually dominate in a tissue, forcing the cell to readjust its entire metabolism around a lower and abnormal standard. If mitochondrial damage is modest and the quality control systems are strong, the cell can often keep the situation under control. It can remove the worst mitochondria through mitophagy, repair some DNA damage, and support the replication of healthier mitochondria so they become the majority. But when the damage is extensive or chronic, for example under constant oxidative stress, nutrient deficiencies, or direct toxic hits to the replication and repair machinery, these protective systems may not cope. In that case, the cell starts to tolerate more and more mitochondria that are off-spec, and step by step, this damaged pattern becomes the new metabolic baseline. Many modern papers point out that some antibiotics and other drugs can interfere with mitochondrial function because mitochondria evolved from bacteria and still share important features with them. Fluoroquinolone antibiotics are a good example. Recent work has shown that they can bind to and inhibit human mitochondrial proteins, disrupt mitochondrial DNA and respiratory chain function, and trigger integrated mitochondrial stress responses, helping to explain delayed and sometimes long-lasting toxicity in susceptible individuals. In such situations, mitochondria may still replicate, but they frequently replicate a template that is already chemically or structurally damaged. New mitochondria are born, but they are born into an environment of oxidative stress, impaired repair, and disturbed signaling, and they follow an instruction manual that contains errors. For patients with FQAD, this can help explain why symptoms are multi-system, long-lasting, and often worsen after additional stressors, even if the original drug exposure was short. In this context, it is also important to say something that many patients with FQAD and primary mitochondrial disease learn the hard way. A cell with weak, overstressed mitochondria cannot simply be pushed back to health with ever higher doses of supplements and medications. When mitochondrial capacity to metabolize, recycle, and excrete substances is reduced, aggressive supplementation can backfire. Instead of supporting the system, large doses of certain vitamins, antioxidants, or metabolic boosters may generate additional oxidative stress, overload already strained detoxification pathways, and make symptoms worse rather than better. This does not mean that all supplements are harmful, but it does mean that in a fragile mitochondrial state, more is not the same as better, and careful, low and slow strategies, often using combination mito cocktails at moderate doses, are safer than trying to force rapid change. The same logic applies to medications and environmental exposures. Expert guidelines for mitochondrial disease explicitly list drugs that should be avoided or used with caution, including certain antiepileptics, valproic acid, statins, metformin, high-dose acetaminophen, and several antibiotic classes, because they can further impair mitochondrial function or trigger metabolic decompensation in vulnerable patients. A body living with damaged mitochondria has less reserve to cope with these additional hits, as well as with air pollutants, pesticides, endocrine disruptors, heavy metals, and other environmental toxicants that are increasingly recognized as modulators of mitochondrial quality control and drivers of chronic disease. For people with FQAD and other mitochondrial disorders, each extra insult, whether it comes from a prescription, an over-the-counter drug, a natural supplement taken in high dose, or polluted air, can be the trigger that tips a precarious balance into a crash. For this reason, doctors and patients need to think not only about how to support mitochondria, but also about how to reduce avoidable mitochondrial stressors in daily life, and to respect the much narrower safety margin these patients live with. From the outside, this can look paradoxical. Tests may show enough mitochondria, and standard laboratory parameters may appear within reference ranges. Yet the person feels as if their whole system is running on a corrupted operating system. On the inside, the cell has not completely lost its mitochondria. Instead, it has adapted to living with partially disabled ones and defending this injured state as the new normal. That may explain why people after acute mitochondrial insults often report that their bodies become hypersensitive to medications, chemicals, stress, lack of sleep, or even small dietary changes. The energy system is no longer robust enough to absorb shocks. Despite this, the mitochondrial network is dynamic, and this gives some reason for cautious hope. Because mitochondria are constantly dividing, fusing, and being recycled, and because new mitochondria can still be formed, there is at least a theoretical possibility of slowly shifting the balance back toward better functioning populations. Supportive strategies such as reducing unnecessary toxic exposures, stabilizing energy demand, providing essential nutrients for mitochondrial enzymes and antioxidant systems, and respecting the limits of a weakened system may not reset everything, but they can give quality control mechanisms a better chance to work. In severe injuries, the road back is slow, incomplete, and uneven between organs, yet even modest improvements in mitochondrial quality can translate into meaningful improvements in how a person feels and functions. Understanding how mitochondrial replication and quality control really work helps to change the story from "my body is mysteriously broken" to "my cellular batteries are copying a damaged template and my system is struggling to clean it up." For patients with FQAD, their families, and their doctors, this simple shift in perspective can be the first step toward more realistic expectations, gentler therapeutic strategies, and more respect for the extraordinary complexity with which our bodies were created.